have our type tool. Let me get a fun of typeface in here. And that's our standard thing, right? We just click on the right here, click on the board, and we can make type. That makes sense, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, also in here, let's go to this one, type on a path. Now I'm going to make a path. And then I've got my type on a path, and I have to go right there, like right on the line. Well, let's do this first. So let me just copy it. We go to text on a path again. Click it. And it will just follow that path, right? So now we have, move it and pull it down. I don't know why it's not letting me move it that far. Does that make sense?
Does the width tool affect that text?
No, I don't think so. No, because it's live type, so I don't think it's going to want to do anything to it. And so live type sort of exists in its own little category. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It exists in its own category. So if you want it to be live, there's certain things that Illustrator or Photoshop will go, I can't do that. Unless it's in Photoshop, be rasterized. And in here, what you would do, if I want to just, if it's not letting me do something with like a shape tool or something like that, I can go up here to type, which is easy to remember because all your type tools are under type. And I could go right here to create outlines. And now it's not live type anymore. It's just a shape. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Now it's still not going to use the width tool because it doesn't have a line to really play with, but. And then let's go, so I could do things like. I'll see that once in a while. Kind of play with it this way. And this, you can see I went past the little thing there, which is fine.
How are you getting that line to come up?
It just pops up. It pops up. I don't really do anything to do it. Now that's text on a path. We can go. Let's do this one. Vertical type tool just does exactly what it says. Just puts it in vertically. Now, also with this stuff, just so you know, let's make this a little smaller. If I go over here to character and pull out my palette for this, that's where I can, and I also have some of them up here. I have size and the simple thing. I have my paragraphs here and all that stuff. I could come here. This is my leading, or no, this one's kerning actually. I'm not sure. Let me see if I have to select all of it. You can see it's letting it out there. Can you guys see that?
Mhm.
Yes.
And then I have various other type tools in here I can play around with. I can do the same thing over here. Like, let's do this one. I can kern out the type. I can kern out the type here. So on and so forth. I can go back over here and go back to 0, which is just the auto. Now, if I have 2 here or more, like a paragraph, select that, and I can come here up to my leading, and I could let it out. Here's my size, so on and so forth. So your fine-tuning stuff is in here. By the way, by the way, I lost my train of thought. All these things you can go back usually to 0 or auto, okay? To go back to normal. Let's see if I can do it here. Auto, boom. Now, let's look at what other type tools do we have? This one just is basically type on a path, a set that lays on it vertically. Let's go to this one. Area type tool. I'm going to click inside of that. And let's shrink this down. We'll go Command All and shrink this down. Hang on. I got to go grab some type. Usually it'll drop a whole paragraph in. I think it's just not because I just did some other stuff. Go back to my area type tool. And it will constrain it within that shape. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Which is really handy for layout, or like if you're doing a flyer or something like that and you want to get the type to conform to like a photo or something like that. It's really nice for that. Look how it's all scrunched up now. Go all. Let's make it all the same size. And I'd have to go back in and let it back out and all that kind of thing. Okay, so type. So that's the ones that I'm concerned with right now. That's them. Okay, now let's look at another little simple tool here. Under Effect, Warp. And this is whatever one I pick, it's going to pull up this. So this is Effect. And the reason I don't mind jumping into this right now is these are just simple filters. And I'm going to go to Arc. And it brings up this tool right here, this palette. So I can go, how much of this do I want? And then I could go, which one do I want? Do I want just to arc the lower part of it? Do I want to arc the upper part of it? Oops. I can go arch, bulge, and then all these things I can go on the horizontal side, I can push a little further, or the vertical side, I can push it further. Or I can just sort of reduce how much of it I'm getting. Let me start over there. Warp. You know, it's flag. This stuff is really handy too, by the way, when you want this real quick.
At this point, the program is not recognizing this as type, it's recognizing it as shapes.
No, it actually, I think it used to be that you did have to convert it to a shape. It knows it's type. So here's the interesting thing, or I think anyway. Warp, and let's just do the arc, okay? If you notice, watch, so let's just say, okay. It's hanging on, see that? When I move it,
Yeah.
it's hanging on to the original information. Right, so let's go Command Y. See? When I look at the preview of the line work, that's how the program is seeing it. It's going, I'm keeping the original type in my brain. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So if I want to turn it where it's not doing that, because sometimes you do, I probably can go to create outlines. Let's see. No, see, it's still there. See it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I have to go up here to, I think it's object, expand appearance. And now it's just an object. Now that's going to come in. That's going to come in on a lot of things we're going to do. When you're applying a filter to something, it usually holds on to the original information. And if you want to get rid of the original information, go, I'm good with that shape, you're going to have to go to expand appearance on things like that. Does that make sense?
Which is kind of a hard, expanding appearance is a hard edit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're committing.
Yeah.
You know, what I usually do, to be honest, and this is why I was talking about earlier, that I usually end up with all these elements off my pasteboard, is when I have this live thing here and I've got it in whatever I'm working on, and I go, I'm going to commit to it. I'll probably just pull a copy of it over here and leave it there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Effect, warp, arc, and it'll do it with a shape too, which is also very handy. Okay, and if you come in here, you can swoop it one way or the other. Make sure preview's on. Otherwise it doesn't work. Or just see it anyway. You can zero it back out if you want. It should have a thing you can just bounce back to, but it doesn't. And then here's vertical, could go that way instead. This way, how much of a bend do I want? You know, I could line it up with that one. So on and so forth, right? Now, another thing in that area, because we're talking about manipulating shapes. If I take another shape like this, here it is. This little thumbtack, puppet warp tool. I can come in here. This is a really handy tool. It's fairly new. Now here's points. Okay, so I'm going to move this. It will move around these points and I can add points. Okay, really handy tool. And what's nice about it, I think I can eliminate them too. Yeah. I'm going to eliminate that one. I'm going to put a new one here. So they'll just rotate around wherever that little point is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I like it to, and then what's cool about it is it gives you this mesh or whatever. Once you do that, it just goes back to a regular shape, which is kind of nice. It doesn't, you don't have to expand appearance with it. And then I think I can just go right back. Yeah, I can go right back to here and I got my points again. The thing that's nice about that is before, like if I had a simple character, sort of like those shag characters, and I go, and, you know, and I have the arm here and I wanted to change that arm, I'd have to go in and redraw it all. Now I might be able to finesse a little bit with the puppet warp tool. Now I'm going to take this actually and not. Now I'm going to go here to my palettes and go image trace. And here's the key thing here with this palette. Right here where it says advanced, you need to drop that down. And right here, I'm going to go ignore white. Okay. And then I've got these options here. I'm going to go to preview. And this is what I've got so far. And I can manipulate how much information I get in here. By the way, this is, you want to make a graphic version of somebody like this. This is a lot how they're doing it for like t-shirts and stuff like that. I want to manipulate it. Now, I've got it very simple and stark here right now. I'm going to go, let's see what that does. This is black and white. I can go to grayscale. It creates a heavy, see, that's actually vectored, okay? See? You guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's much more of a, you know, let's go. Look, the more, let's see what it does. It really taxes it because it puts a lot of points in here. So that made it a little more, more stuff. Let's go way back the other way. It's got holes now in it, it looks like. Let's go back over here. Paths. So it's really a matter of dialing in what you like. And the whole thing, so let's go back to, and then you can also go color, which I'll do here in a second. So let's go, don't care about that. So you can go 3 colors, 6 colors, really nice. I mean, you can knock down, if you were doing a screen print or something like that for a shirt, and you know they want 3 colors, that could knock it into 3 colors, which is really handy. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So let's go back to black and white. And now the reason that we held or we hit this will ignore white thing. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go again. This is going to come into the same thing. I'm going to go right now. It's holding on to all this information, which I don't want it to do now because I'm going, okay, that's it. So I'm going to go up here to edit or object. I think it is. I always forget. Expand. Object fill is fine. And now it's let go of that. If you notice, it's not activating this window anymore. And if I go instant t-shirt, right? Then I go find the Doors logo and I live trace that and I put it vertical right here and I got a t-shirt. That make sense?
That's very cool. I like that.
Yeah, it comes in handy for certain things. People abuse the hell out of it. That's the problem I don't like about it. So when we set it ignore white, what it did then is it, you know, got rid of all the white, which is what I want. Right?
Mhm.
You can see this type of image works pretty good with it. Now let's take something else. Let's take this thing, which is probably way too low res, but who cares? And I'm gonna go, let's do a couple of things. Let's go back to, now let's go to color. Oops. Color. Ignore white. Preview, I gotta hit preview. I'm on black and white. So there's your black and white, okay? And again, I can dial it in, I can get more detail in it. I'm gonna go to color. And there's color, okay? I like that it chops it up and makes the shapes look all graphic. I kind of like that. And then I could play here. And this is the filter I was talking about that I saw them use at a McDonald's, where they just took pictures and they did this with it in color. And they blew all the shapes up so they were real graphic looking. And it looked like a styly thing, but I was looking at it going, it's just the image trace filter. They probably got paid quite a bit to do that job. And it really required almost nothing, okay? And by the way, that's not a bad thing. It's a smart way to work. They made some money and it was very simple. And it probably took them a day to do the whole thing. There's another one. So that's just playing with those filters. Let's go back to black and white. And let's get so it looks a little better. What I might use this for oops, way too much. I'm gonna go all the way back to 0. Now, what this is also doing is it's creating thousands of points, which really bogs down Illustrator. So let's go back to black and white. I'm trying to dial in just a decent in between here. Oh, let's try. I think that's a little too much. What I might use something like this for, now let's go up to expand. Let's say I like that and say okay. And then maybe I've got an image or I'm creating an illustration. Let me do this. And I'm going to have some trees way in the background. We're going to go into the blue purple area. And they're way in the background, so they're not that important. But I might want to create a silhouette tree line back there. And let's say I got something in front of this, like there's an object here, maybe a hill or something that's obscuring the bottom. So I always got to make sure about things like that. And I could sort of create a simple tree line back there, a silhouetted tree line using something like this. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Now I might have to go, or not might have to, you know, I might go, and I'm gonna pull one over here. I'm gonna use my reflect tool, only I'm not gonna hold option this time. It's gonna hold shift, and I'm gonna flip that thing so it feels like a different shape a little bit than the one over there. I might make it bigger. I might squash it a little bit. I might pull it this way. You know, just to sort of change it up so it doesn't feel like the same thing. I might take the same thing and in the foreground. So it'd be cut off by this corner. I might go, well, this is going to be my foreground bush. That's way too saturated, by the way. You know, you're only going to see, you know, that in the foreground. And I could use it again to create like a foreground overlapping element. They have tools in here which I really like. Let me find them. I might already have them. So here's your color breakdown, RGB. You can move these around and do whatever you want. But I should have it in here. They also have this color guide. Okay. So I picked this color. Okay. So now what it's done, here's shades and here's tints, light values, dark values. Here's the original color. And if you go to this little menu right here, this is what it's, this is a tetrad too. These are color theory things. So if I go complementary, it gives me a complementary palette. Okay. Left complementary. It just gives me all these palette options. By the way, the one I really like is this one. I don't know what's going with this green thing. Hang on. There it is. I love this monochromatic thing because I like to do monochromatic things and it's fun to just boom, it's already there. All I gotta do is just pick the colors. So if I pick another color, you know, I can just come in here. Something's going on with my computer. There it goes. It's really lagging. I don't know. You know, and I can just really quickly get a palette together. And by the way, a lot of these things, it's not like it's going to pull up a palette and I go, there it is, there's my palette. It gets me started faster. Does that make sense? They don't have it in here anymore, I don't think. Hang on. Oh, they do. So this is another thing they have. You can sort of dial another palette in here. Okay, so here it is right here. Okay. You can save these if you're signed into Adobe Creative and all that kind of stuff. And based on where I'm moving these things, it will adjust the palette. And then let's look at this real quick because it sort of relates to it. They don't have that in Photoshop anymore, I don't think. So if you search Adobe Color Wheel, this will come up. And it's basically sort of that same tool is what we just saw. I can start with a color and I can adjust these palettes. I can also adjust them down here. And I can dial a palette in, okay? And here's the same thing, monochromatic, triadic, complementary, split complementary, so on and so forth, okay? But the real thing, and I think this is useful for, let's grab this. Let's go. So let's say I like this one. And I go, well, maybe that's my starting point for a color idea. And right here where it says extract theme, because nobody can just speak English on these things, I'm gonna go drag this on here, and it gives me a color palette based on either colorful, the bright colors, the muted colors, the deep colors, the dark colors, or none. I don't know what none does. Go back to colorful. And I can move this. I can go, well, I don't want that one. I want the green here. You know, and again, you can save this into the Adobe thing and it'll come up in your program. Okay, so this is our linear gradient, this is our, and I'll talk about that one in a second, and then this one. And what this one does is I can put, and I can double click these. It allows me to sort of dial in this gradient in a more organic way, okay? So what I have it set on right now is points, and now I'm gonna go to lines. And now I can do this, and like, let's say I wanna light that edge like I'm doing right now. So I can either do the linear thing, or I can just put points in here. Point being though, is I can get a nice organic amoeba shape or whatever I'm trying to get here. Into my gradient. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Now, so that's your freeform gradient tool right there, okay? You can either base it on lines or points, okay? But the last one here, if I do, so here's our, let's go back to our regular linear right there. And let's go to our gradient tool. I'm going to do it this way. And let's get rid of this one. So, and now that's our gradient, or that's our linear one we've talked about before, but let's change it to radial. And it just does that. It goes out where it radiates out from this point. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
And again, let's do this. Go back to our gradient tool right there. I could go, let's put another one of these in here. I could go back to 0. You know, it could just fade to nothing again. Okay. That's your 3 basic ones, right? Okay, guys, I'll see you tomorrow at 1:30.
Thanks, see you tomorrow.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Mike. Appreciate it.